This video is for Annabel the butterfly. So mine is made in our hyacinth, our brand new hyacinth. So you'll need 50 grams of that and then 25 grams of a contrast colour. And if made in these colours, then it's the blue Morpho butterfly that we are going for. So what you're going to do is you're going to be making 3 parts for your body as per every insect, and then actually 4 wings. But to create 4 wings, you have actually made 8 pieces because they are double-sided and they are asymmetric. So I'm not going to go from the very beginning, and with all of that you should have plenty of diagrams to help you with your backwards and forwards crochet as you create your wings. To verbal reason, the construction of the pieces is you're going to be making 8 pieces, 4 small ones and 4 big ones, and then you put them together actually on top of each other, so right side facing and right side facing with the points at the top, and you crochet all around the edge. And on the opposite one it will be the other way up, so you're actually loading them the other way up in order to then crochet the opposite way around, and that then makes them symmetrical. So you've got your 2 longer points at the top and your 2 longer points at the bottom of the 4 wings. So to put them together, first I'm going to put the charcoal detail onto the edge here, and before we start to assemble the whole butterfly. So when making your top wings, we used a centralizer to mark where we would be rejoining on each one to work the detail onto the top. And this is important because actually to be able to do it, you're going to be working from the top of this one down and from the bottom of this one up. So that's why we pop those in position so that you know which way is up and down as you work this top detail. So what you need to do to work the charcoal on the top is put your hook into the stitch above where your centralizer is, so into there. Slip stitch it into place by pulling it through, and actually chain 1 just so that that's really securely attached, because that will make it a bit easier for sewing in your ends afterwards as well. And then we're actually going to work into the wrong side on these first few stitches. So turn it upwards like that, and we're actually going to go 1 double crochet and then a 2nd double crochet. Then we're going to chain 4, so 1, 2, 3, 4, and then turning your wing over so that you're then able to see the front side, is you just need to slip stitch in around a wing. So it doesn't really matter, your chain tension will dictate how far down you go. Make sure that that chain isn't under too much tension, so don't pull it too tight. So just a few stitches into your wing, slip stitch into place like that, and then we're actually going to work back up that chain again. So we're going to slip stitch, then double crochet, and then do 2 half trebles, then missing a stitch. So do you see how we worked into that one? We're going to miss that one, we're going to go into the next one, is attach that in, so you can go in frontwise with your hook on that one and slip stitch in. Then you can turn it round again and do the next couple of stitches into the back. So we're going to do 2 stitches again now, so 1 and 2, and then repeat that to work your next triangle. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Come back onto the front of the wing again and try and get about level with the one that you've already worked. So I'm going to go in there this time, slip stitch that into place, and then work back down that chain in exactly the same way. So once you've worked your 2 sides, you can remove your centralizers, you won't need those anymore. And when it comes to working in your ends, the nice thing is that you've actually got this hollow pillow effectively, so you can just pull those charcoal ends in inside like that before you snip them off. So you can pull them inside the wing and then snip those off afterwards. So once you've got your charcoal ends in, now we're going to sew our wing pieces together. So with that longer elongated piece to the top and then the longer elongated piece on the bottom wing downwards, put your wings together with your larger one, the top wing, overlapping the bottom wing. Then turning that over, all I'm going to do is attach that into position against the other one. Like that, and we're ready to now assemble the body. So when you're making the body and head, you'll be making it in 3 pieces. This is my head first, and I've chosen to use safety eyes on this design. So with safety eyes, you need to remove the backs first. So you've got the backs off. I find it a bit easier to put them in before I put my stuffing in. So with the way that we've made the head, you've got a pointed top, which is where you started, and the bottom is where it ended. So you can push your safety eyes through the fabric about halfway down the head. So push them in that side, then push the other one in. And then I would recommend sewing before you actually put, stuffing should I say, before you actually put the backs on, because you can always still adjust them while you've just pushed them through the fabric once. So take a bit of stuffing, get that into the head to make that a bit more 3D so we can check our positioning. There we go. Do use your rounds as a grid. So do make sure that you've got it into the same round of stitches. You see how I've put you can see where you're putting the back point. Walk across the round like that so you can make sure that you've got it in line with the other one. So it's quite easy to take them out and put them back in again at that stage, should you wish to, if you feel like you haven't got it in quite the right position. Then you need to get the backs on before you finish stuffing it. So take the little back like that. Push out the end. Now this can be a little bit fiddly, but because we're using a charcoal base and because obviously all the insects tend to be characterized by these bigger, more shiny eyes, I think it's a really lovely feature to add onto a design. So get the backs, push that right in as far as you can. That means that you won't really ever be able to remove those again. So do make sure you've got them in the right position before you push those backs on one final time. Then I'm going to pop a little bit more stuffing in once I've completed. But don't be tempted to overstuff, because what we're actually going to do is almost use this head shape a little bit inverted like that, so it pops on the top of the next section, which is the thorax. So then your thorax is the ball shaped section. Let's give that a bit of stuffing. There we go. And then the abdomen. Right, then putting the 3 pieces together, what I'm going to do is, firstly, I'm going to stuff and sew in the ends on the thorax, the central piece. So that's just going to be a ball. So gather your stitches and sew those into place. And let's start snipping them off, because actually there's a lot of ends at this stage. So if you snip them up as you go along, you might find it a little bit easier when you're putting these pieces together. Then do exactly the same thing on the bottom of the abdomen. So gather the final couple of stitches on there. Then gather the ones on the bottom of the head. And then we're going to actually string the 3 pieces together a little bit like a necklace. So let's gather those ones together. And we want the head to fit snugly on top of the thorax. And you see how the head is this mushroomy shape. Don't be tempted to stuff it so it's fully like that shape. We want it to be to sit nice and neatly onto the top of that thorax. So go straight through the center of the ball like that and pull that up nice and tightly so it joins the head like that to create that shape. And then go into the bottom of your abdomen. Now here we want to make this a little bit stronger as a join. So what I'm going to do is put my hook and my needle, should I say, in through the central circle. And then I'm actually going to sew around this round into the thorax. So I'm going to go take my needle in through that round there and then up through that piece. Quite similar to how you would attach a head onto our kind of classic Ed's animal, is you'd be sewing that round between the top of the body and the bottom of the head. So just go round like that. Now, you can do this to make it stiff on the head join to the thorax as well, but I quite like the fact that if you leave it on that thread, it can turn its head around, so you can give it a little bit more animation. But you can also, I'll just show you that in a second, do exactly the same thing between the other two pieces, should you wish. So go around like that. Then if you wanted to reinforce, I would always put more than one thread through anyway. So even if I was just going to attach it on a thread, come through like that, pull that down, and then fasten that piece off at the top. So bring it through the head and then secure that like that. So that's our 3 pieces of our body assembled. Now to attach our wings on. So you've got to sew in all the rest of your ends on these wings. We no longer need any of these hyacinth ends. So let's sew all of those in neatly. So now we're going to attach the wings onto the thorax using crochet, because it's going to make it a little bit easier to sew it on neatly. So once you've got your 2 wings attached together and you've got all your ends sewn in, put your hook in through both pieces like that. Slip stitch, and then chain 3, and then double treble across the remaining stitches. So wrap round once and twice and go in. Ooh, try that again. 1, 2 and 3. So once and twice, in again. 1, 2, 3, once and twice, in again. 1, 2, 3. So then break the yarn, and then what we can do is sew those 2 pieces together, but at the same time we can actually sew it straight onto the thorax. So I'm going to sew this end in first. This end's out of the way, and I'm going to use that while I'm doing that to actually sew it onto this piece. So put your 2 bits together like that, and you can just sew between the 2. And then secure off that end. And the neatest way of securing off the ends would be, we can actually sew these into the thorax once we've finished that piece. So then, once you've got those in position like that, take your little body, and the thorax is that central section, and what you're going to do is turn him over like that. Should I say her? Well, certainly mine is Annabel. Turn it over like that. Make sure your eyes are nice and straight, but if you've put your head on like mine, you'll be able to turn it round anyway at the end. And then you can just sew through what is almost like a little rib cage on the back to attach those wings into position. So now we're going to finish with surface detail and to put these antennae and these legs in position. And so what you need to do is just slip stitch into the position that you're going to start the first one. Follow your pattern for the number of stitches. And then work back down that chain. Slip stitch at the bottom and break the yarn. Now, if you wish your antennae to curve in towards each other rather than both in the same direction, what you can do is turn it around and work this one wrong side facing, but it will mean that one will curve forwards and one will curve backwards. What I'm choosing to do with my antennae is get them to both curve in one direction. So I'll actually rejoin in exactly the same way as that first one and work an identical antennae. And that theory for the antennae really applies when it comes to doing the legs, because to get your legs to curve in the same direction, you need to work one on one side up the body and on the opposite side down the body. So let me explain what I mean there. Is you'll slip stitch into position, say from here, to work the first set, and the bottom ones are the longest ones. Then when it comes to working the second set of legs, all you need to do is make sure that you rejoin on this side. So you're actually going to rejoin at the top on the second side and work downwards rather than upwards.